Welcome to the bold analysis, ladies and gentlemen. In this podcast, I've been having a mantra that Kenyans should be given time and be allowed to deliberate about the future of this country fairly without emotional manipulation. And that is why I insisted that the finance bill in this country was never about Raila Odinga or Uhuru Kenyatta, because at the end of the day, the two gentlemen that will really want to link to the country's discussion are not going to be affected anyway with what the Kenya Kwanza regime are going to do. They have everything. And so today, I am a bit disappointed by how Gathoni Wamuchoma is being profiled in the wake of her position on finance bill. She has insisted that many, unlike many other leaders who have taken their minds to State House, she's not going to board that. And she's very strong in her position that things are not right. The tragedy that is befalling this country is there are members of parliament and currently Murang'a governor even wrote a letter to former President Uhuru Kenyatta telling him that BBI was unpopular and would not go through in Mount Kenya. And to that time, it was cool that he was saying the truth, and they accused Uhuru Kenyatta of not listening to the people. But now, is it not the same people that are not listening to the population? Ladies and gentlemen, let's look at Gathoni Wamuchoma's parable in what is shared to the president. And I've really, I saw it, it was shared yesterday at 10 a.m. I know quite a number of us have not paid attention to it. He's using the story of, in the First Kings, First Kings chapter 22. Talking about a king who wanted to go to fight his enemies. And the king called his advisors, 400 of them, to inquire whether there were chances of winning or losing. But the 400 of them then just cheered the king and told him to attack with an assurance that he would win. But there was one person who was known as Mika, who the king hated because he used to tell the king the truth. And what Gathoni Wamuchoma is saying there is, she is that maker, who the king is hating him because he keeps on telling the king the truth. And that's what she's saying. And so Mika was invited, and he told the king, if you go to war with your enemies, you will not return. That is what Gathoni Wamuchoma is also telling the president, that if you go on with the finance bill, with the taxes as they are, then you will not return in 2027. She is firing that warning. And so the funded advisors, prophets, the king were annoyed because Mika had told the king what is around. So those around William Ruto are annoyed that Gathoni Wamuchoma is telling the president about it. They slapped Mika, and the king ordered his imprisonment without food. Then the king defied, he went to war, the sword got him and he died, and that was the end of his rule. That's what he's saying. If you go with that, the finance bill is a sword, and that sword will got in him, and that will be the end of his rule. She's saying, you can slap me, jail me without food, or abuse me, but God speaks through his people. The Finance Bill 2023 is punitive, oppressive, and scandalous. The ruling class must listen to the cries of its citizenry. That's democracy. And indeed, it's true. That is democracy. There is that one, the discussion, the description of the finance bill as scandalous. You know, the three words: punitive, to mean that something that even some of them are even against the law; oppressive, that they are against the people, and scandalous because some are just there to rob Kenyans their hard-earned money. That's the gospel truth. That some of those proposals just a scandal in the making. I am one person I was discussing with a pro-government blog, and I was asking her. She was challenging us that why is it that the mainstream media is not reporting the good news that some NHIF money were released to the public, were released by the treasury to avert the looming crisis. And I could not understand how you want the country to celebrate that treasury is releasing NHIF money, while NHIF is money from people's deductions. It is, how did it get itself? Where did it disappear that it has to be picked, that it has to be gotten, someone has to get it from treasury? You know, I was like, how do you want us to celebrate such an impunity? How do we celebrate that NHIF money imetolewa and has come from treasury? Well, in the first place, it should not be a problem because it is money from taxpayers. And people are asking, why is the media not telling that side of the story? How do you tell that? So it's true with what she's saying there, scandalous. And I think in the wake of that, there is a gentleman I hold of high regard, Stephen Mutoro. Stephen Mutoro is the Secretary General of COFEC. COFEC is Consumer Protection Body. It's fighting for Kenyans. He has just shared a tweet that has really disturbed me. He's saying, it's inaccurate and harsh for Mrs. Gathoni Wamuchoma to term the finance bill as punitive, oppressive, and scandalous. But Steve, it's true. It's true. I know it's harsh, but it's true. It's true it is harsh, but again, that is the truth. Are we not in a regime of telling each other the truth? Yes. And he's saying, without adducing evidence. I don't know which evidence is needed here. I salute her for courage to challenge her party's position, but such blind and unsupported posturing won't be good either for the ruling or the opposition view is leaning on the basis of her closer working relationship with former President Uhuru Kenyatta. Now look at it. Clearly, her name is being dragged, and someone is clearly showing a narrative here that probably her position is a compromise position because of her working relationship with former President Uhuru Kenyatta. I've said once again, and that's why I started by saying this analysis, that clearly her parable is talking about the real situation. Those who want to link critics of the bill with former president are a bit dishonest. Because look at the civil society organizations, the KEPSA, Kenya Private Sector Alliance. Look at the NGOs that presented submission to the parliament. Do you want to tell me that even KEPSA, all these organizations, even some government agencies opposed that finance bill? So do you want to tell me that all these organizations and companies, both public and private companies that opposed this bill, were they all listening? Did they pass through Ichaweri to meet former President Uhuru Kenyatta? And however much we want to spin this issue, the truth of the matter here is Kenyans are enlightened, and there was a narrative here to make sure that Kenyans are part of it. But I want to say without me blinking here that instead of profiling Wamuchoma, the ruling class should make a very serious consideration. I think profiling Wamuchoma, because Wamuchoma is just being profiled because she's one member of parliament from Mount Kenya. But there are also MPs from Western. So if it is about profiling, there is an MP from Bungoma, I think Majimbo Kalasinga, who also opposed the bill, and he's from Fort Kenya. Why aren't you linking the Bungoma MP with former President Uhuru Kenyatta? So you look at it and say it's a very selfish position, to say the truth. There are other members of parliament in UDA who are also not comfortable with it, but because they fear, they cannot speak about it. And instead of celebrating Wamuchoma for going against the grain and speaking something that most of us and most of members of parliament around William Ruto knows the truth, but we've decided to profile one person because of her position. And she's been taken through this because someone is interested to profile her as using Uhuru Kenyatta to portray Wamuchoma as someone who is out to sabotage William Ruto. Now, I think it should be made clearly. The critics of finance bill are also Kenyans, like just the same as those who are pro the finance bill. You know, those who are criticizing are also, there is no one who is a lesser Kenyan or a more Kenyan than the other person. All of us are Kenyan. Myself, I'm a critic. I believe that it might have some good fruits there. But those good fruits, the taxes that have been reduced, if you compare with those which have been increased, it doesn't add up. Still, common mwananchi will suffer. And so, the script of profiling those against us as sabotaging William Ruto is wrong because the government belongs to all of us. And I agree with what Osoro said. And Osoro made it clear that there is no one who is government. Government is the people. And if William Ruto is failing, all of us are failing. And so when other people are saying this is wrong, it is not right for those who are saying this is not right to be profiled. Aren't we profiling those who are proposing? Because when all of us are affected, I've just seen a tweet by Millicent Manga saying that the 3% housing levy has been dropped to 1.5. Now, if it has been dropped because of what Kenyans are saying, then let's look at it this way. If it has been dropped, is it because they've listened to the voice of Kenyans? That's the truth. And we are in a democracy. At least we can lack any other thing, but we have democracy to speak what we think it is. Now, someone wants to rekindle the narrative that Uhuru destroyed the region, and Uhuru is being used as like a scarecrow. Like when I tell people about Uhuru Kenyatta, when I tell people about Gathoni, when I try to link Gathoni Wamuchoma to Uhuru Kenyatta, I'm like this is a person that no one should even associate with, you know. And I don't think that is right. But this is my punchline here. The Githunguri member of parliament is someone who has been at the forefront and around Rigathi Gachagua. I can tell you that for sure. And someone was telling me that even in Mount Kenya peace, the closest to William Ruto, to Rigathi Gachagua, has been Gathoni Wamuchoma. And during the Nairobi, the spat between Sakaja and Rigathi, Gathoni Wamuchoma was actually behind it. She was on record saying that she went to meet Sakaja, she also went to meet Rigathi, and when she could not get the answers, she went to Rigathi. So I think her confrontation to power is not something that is very new. But she is a threat to the Mount Kenya vote. And the reason why she's being suppressed and subdued is because her voice is the silent voice of majority. Take this. She has become a target for the deep state, and she's being suppressed because her voice is the silent voice of majority, even from the mountain. There are quite a number that do not want to speak because they cannot confront those in power. But the reality here is, if you were to do a secret voting, take MPs for a retreat in Mombasa and don't talk to them and give them vote your conscience, I can tell you that majority of them will vote against that bill. But because this is what the state wants, they have really seen her as a threat. I believe my position is clear. Let the country debate finance bill rationally, without dragging, profiling, personification, bringing characterization of other leaders in it, is just to drain people's emotions and to divert. And someone will not, I think people are interested not Gathoni Wamuchoma's sentiments or other position to be taken as our position, but as a position of former President Uhuru Kenyatta. For all along, if you knew he was having a close working relationship with Uhuru Kenyatta, then why did you even give her the UDA ticket? Let's say the truth. So that parable is very strong, according to me. And it's clearly that if you are interested and you want to wish well for William Ruto, then you should tell him the truth. That's my take.